Shelley Lime has sent me a message, and it borders on abusive, but it doesn't really matter. I encourage people to write whatever they want to write, and I encourage that debate, and thank you for people for sort of defending me. It's very sweet to, it's like watching some sort of jousting match and tying my colours to the end of the javelin. In fact, I have a friend who jousts, so I shouldn't even mock that. You never quite know what sort of thing you're going to be unleashing. So I thought I should tell you a little bit about my early life. When I was 26, my mother died, and in the process of beating me up, my father told me that I was not his son, but I was the adopted bastard of a Derbyshire slut, and your breeding shows itself. And I thought, relief. And I went in search of my birth mother. It took me many years until when I was in Greece, and I was on the internet, the early internet, you know, the thing which you plugged in, which made a noise, and there was a very strange a newspaper report about a woman from Derbyshire who had complained about mites attacking her flower over Christmas, and she said, I can't open the cupboard without weeping. And my partner thought this was the sort of thing I would say, and I must say I'm inclined to think, yes, that sort of element of drama is something which I recognise. And we pursued this person, and eventually, on a night, I think we went to see the original opening of Mary Poppins in the West End. We came back very late, and the telephone rang. We at the time we lived in Charlbury, a little village just outside Oxford. They call it a town, actually, so I shouldn't call it a village. And the telephone rang. It must have been 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. And this little voice on the other end said, do you know who this is? And I said, well, no. And she said, it's your mother. And I was a little flabbergasted because my mother had died. And when I recovered myself, I said, well, mother who? And she said, I'm your mother. I think of you every 27th of May. And I said, well, why? Because that's your birthday. I said, no, my birthday's the 12th of May. And she said, I was there, which was pretty good, really. Anyway, I eventually met her, and I was the third of, I think, 9 children, all of whom she had abandoned in some way. I was the only one who was adopted. I was 2 months premature. She said I was 3 months premature. You were so small, she said, I used to bathe you in a soup bowl. In 1961, if I had been 3 months premature, I would have been a medical miracle. So I think that wasn't entirely true. But she was full of stories. She came to stay for a weekend. She stayed for 3 weeks. And I don't think I ever really once got information from her that was entirely truthful. I have since met my younger sister, one of my younger sisters, many of my other brothers and sisters who I had somehow or other found a link to. She wouldn't tell me where my older brother and sister were, but I managed to trace some of the others. They wouldn't speak to me because I was in contact with her and she had been so vile to them. And in the end, when I was in hospital with appendicitis, she was on the phone. She wanted to come and visit, and she did in fact finally come and visit when I'd got home. And at the time I lived in a small flat in Oxford at the top of quite a large and steep set of stairs, and my appendix operation had been fairly botched because I had peritonitis as well, and I was in a great deal of pain and unable to move, and she expected me to come down and open the front door, which I couldn't do, and she hurled the most extraordinary abuse at me. And I thought, really, that's the end of our relationship. and I was quite pleased that I drew an end there. But I thought I'd let you know that, so that if you want to do your COD psychology, yeah, I spent most of my early childhood in orphanages and in care. I was shunted from one family to another, and I think by about the age of 3, I was finally adopted. And has this had an effect on me? I have no idea. But yes, I was taken away from my mother when I was extremely young. I think she had me for one afternoon, and during that afternoon she went to visit a lover. I've since spoken to that person, who said that I was passed off as somebody else's baby, and I was left in the corner. So yeah, it is one reason why I am sympathetic to people with strange stories, and I'm very sympathetic to small children and children in general, I think, possibly, because I think if you have a good start in life, that's great. I had a wonderful childhood, and I'm very grateful to the mother who took me in, who I would regard as mother. And so I hope this explains a little bit. I really don't think it's necessary for me to keep coming back and giving you pieces of my memoir. But I have started writing. I thought initially it would be an autobiography, but I don't think I'm famous enough to write an autobiography, so it's going to be tossed off as some sort of memoir. And at least with a memoir, I can be selective about what I remember and what I write down. But and maybe while I'm messing around in pantomime in Epsom, if I ever get to that point, then I shall do a bit of writing while I'm there, and maybe try and finish it. If anybody knows a decent publisher or editor, I'd be really interested to hear from them. Have fun.